Speaking of the Vanquish H10 Optic, look what just showed up. And it's still factory sealed, so I don't know what color is inside of this box, but Vanquish used some pretty cool marketing with this product where you have the chance of getting any of these color liveries or a slimmer chance of getting carbon fiber panels. So that's what, of course, everyone's always hoping for, but the plan with this build was to do our own custom livery on it. But before we crack open that box, I wanted to show you, I've been pulling out the parts and stuff from some other trucks along with planning what I wanted my goals to be with this build. So my wife actually got some cool little books, these little like pocket notebooks, and I figured I would jot down kind of what I wanted my goals to be and what I wanted to accomplish with this awesome RC truck kit. So this is the Vanquish H10 Optic build log, and some of the things I just jotted down here to start were some of my goals. I wanted to do an Ultra 4 inspired build. I have dedicated crawlers and stuff already, so this one I wanted to be able to hit jumps and send it off some rocks and have fun, incorporate it with some of the RC drift car content that I've already been shooting, along with being a budget-ish friendly build and what is worth spending money on and where you can save money when you're building one of these kits. And then one of my other points that I've seen, a bunch of discussion on the forums and stuff is, for me, the color doesn't matter because we're going to be wrapping and creating our own livery. And then, of course, the most important, have fun, 3 exclamation points. And then some of the other stuff I wrote down were some of the electronics I'll be using and stuff that I think you should spend your money on. So I'll be using my Hobbywing Fusion Pro, and this is out of my other truck. And I already have a VFD transmission already built. And since this comes with another VFD, I'll just replace it. This one I'll be using in this optic build. I have the AGF RC servo here. This is a super strong servo. It's fast, it works well. So that's what I'm planning on using. I have a few other options if that one's not going to work out. I also wanted to do lights. I've never done lights on any of my trucks, but I think it'd be cool if we go do a night run with some of the friends to incorporate Mile High RC's neon lights, maybe some rock lights, and possibly build some headlights for this thing. I have a bunch of LED diodes from other builds that I think I could solder up a pretty cool headlight system. And then I'll be using my FlySky Noble and showing you guys how I program it with all of that. And then some of the other upgrades that I wanted to do and kind of plan on doing. But I have the lightweight motor plate on the transmission. I have the lightweight front machined gears in that already. Possibly some shock caps to match some of the accessories I'm doing, like these wheels. And that's one of those areas that I'll talk about later where you can save some money and you don't necessarily need to buy $200 RC car wheels. I have drive shafts. These are metal steel drive shafts just for strength, especially if we're going to up the pinion gear to get a little more punch so this thing can go off some jumps. And then I have a servo mount on its way because I feel like any of the steering, you kind of want it to feel more direct. So I feel like having a metal steering plate instead, or a metal servo mount instead of a plastic one, kind of allows for a more direct feel. And then a couple different shock oils that we'll test out. This is a 60 weight and a 45 weight. So depending on the weight, this box has some heft to it, so I'm assuming we'll want to go with a higher viscosity oil. And then, yeah, that's about it for now for the notes. So I have a few extra pages here that I'll be able to kind of take notes and use along through the build process. So I'm gonna get you guys set up on the tripod and then we'll crack open the seal and see what color is inside the box. Let's crack this thing open. We'll bust out the old trusty knife here. Give that a little slash. Oh, awesome. So this looks like we got the Throttle Therapy teal livery. That is an awesome color and might not even need a wrap on it. And then we got the owner's manual here and all our bags. So I'll get you guys set up on a better angle and start building this. Check that out. Very cool graphics. Thing's awesome. The first thing I'm going to do here is pull out the instruction manual, and then clear up my workspace. This is a really nice, well-printed book, it seems. And usually with these kits, you'll start with the axles, the transmission, and since I don't need to build the transmission, I will start with the axles and get those built up and ready to go. Looks like the rear axle and the front axle, and then the rest of this stuff, pull the links out too. It's a timely process sometimes. And then set this aside, remove the sharp hardware. And so a cool aspect of the H10 Optic is that it has these new Vanquish axles with the hydro steering. Gives it a really cool scale look. One other thing I forgot to mention with starting a build, but it's usually nice to have all the tools you're going to need laid out. And sure enough, I open up the booklet and they have everything that you're going to need to assemble everything. And along with that, having a little parts tray, so all these little screws and washers don't go running off into the carpet. Like, it happens to me all the time. I'm going to get these axles built. I don't think I'll bore you with the exact specifics unless I run into certain quirks that I feel like I should inform you about. I've built a bunch of Vanquish kits in the past, and these are really nice axles. You'll go through, put your bearings in, make sure you grease everything. They include grease and Loctite for your metal to metal connections, and then greasing all your gears in the axles and the transmissions is always a nice thing to have in a kit. So it looks like the first step is assembling the ring and pinion and then putting that into the axle. So I will get that done. Maybe I'll throw a time lapse up and you'll be able to see the process. Here's the ring and pinion installed, and as you can see, I put a fat glob of grease on the gears there and then just kind of spin it around to work it into the gears, and then that's going to get installed into this housing. And that will just go in there like so, and then bolted down, and it'll be on to the next step. So I've got the front axle completed here. Pretty cool, very unique setup with the servo mounted to the axle with this linkage, and then the faux hydraulic ram there allows the steering to turn like that. So I think that's very cool. I'm going to jump into the rear axle. It's a little bit more of a simple process, and then we'll get into the skid and center section of the H10 Optic here. Got the rear axle complete here, and then we're moving on to the skid plate and transmission. And since I am not going to build the VFD that came with this right now, this is where I'm going to start getting a little custom. I am actually going to be using titanium hardware. I've built this whole transmission with titanium screws, lightweight motor plate, has lightweight gears. I'm trying to keep it somewhat light, not too heavy. I'm going to go ahead and start assembling that, and I will show you what it looks like when all of these pieces are together, and then we'll go down to building the cage. If you guys are running a Hobbywing Fusion Pro, one thing you do have to do on the skid is just shave down this front right link mount just ever so slightly, just so it clears the width of the motor can. I just like to make sure that all the holes and everything align, and then down there under there there's clearance. Nothing's being forced or pushed in an awkward direction. But just a little tip, I'm going to keep bolting this thing together. I did up the pinion. The kit for the Optic comes with a 13 to 32 pitch pinion. I just so happen to have a couple extras. I tried to fit a 16, but I think I have a tight spot on this spur. So I'm going to start with a 14, see if I need more wheel speed from there. See how that works. Here's the center transmission skid assembly with the electronics tray mounted. And I'll have to go through and clean this up. I kind of want to see where everything's going to land in the chassis, so I'll know where to mount my power switch and where I can mount my receiver. And I'll wait till everything's bolted together and then try and clean up the wiring as best I can. That is a very cool, very stout piece. Pretty unique VFD skid setup. So moving on to the next step, I'll have shocks, and for this step I have these titanium coated or zinc coated shock shafts that I'm going to use. And a cool thing about the Optic is that it comes with the hard anodized shock bodies, and so hopefully in the future I will get the machined shock caps to go along with it, but for today I'm going to build them stock, see how they do. So I'm getting started here with the shocks, and since these Vanquish shocks are cartridge style, meaning that the O-ring and spacer is compressed here in the shock, I'm going to take a dab of silicone grease and put it up into the O-rings, so when I put the shafts through I can thread them through and not worry about tearing the silicone O-rings. And I think this is just a little bit of preventative maintenance, and it allows for a smoother action as the shock shaft goes through. By putting that silicone into the cartridge before, I'm able to gently get these shock shafts through without worrying about tearing the new O-rings. And then it makes for a nice smooth action, and it helps seal up the O-rings before putting shock oil into the shock. So after that, I'm going to go ahead, finish up the rest of these, get the shock caps on, and then I think since the Vanquish Optic kit came with the red springs, I will probably go with the 45 weight oil, see how that equates with the weight of the truck versus these springs. The reds are the soft springs, so it's going to allow for a lot of shock movement, and this isn't going to be just a crawler specific build. So I think going with a 45 weight oil here is going to pair nicely with the red springs. See how it goes. And so here we have a fully built set of the hard anodized Vanquish shocks. They are super smooth. What I like to do is just keep them in pairs, and I'll just set that with the preload. I have one with 3 threads showing and a pair with 2 threads showing, so then I can designate front and rear, but that could just be my OCD there. These are extremely smooth shocks. So on to the next step. So I skipped over the link building because that's just kind of monotonous work, but we have a slider now minus the cage. Cleaned up some of the wiring there, got the shocks mounted, the axles are mounted, clean electronic install, and everything looks really nice. So the next step in this process is getting the cage built. So far what I've noticed is this is very well thought out and very well designed with how all these components interlink with each other, provide different options. If you were to run dig, there's a mount back here for your servos where you can cut this tray out, and then this is a servo mount, so you'd be able to have your dig servo and an overdrive servo if you switch this transmission for the VFD twin or the Hertz dig unit. So pretty cool, very well thought out. The tolerances are just really nice for being plastic parts. Overall, I'm really excited to see how this performs compared to some of the other Vanquish trucks I've built.
Inside my own world of make-believe, kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me.
So no shelf queens here. Hope you guys enjoyed some of that running footage of the Vanquish H10 Optic. And yeah, a little build video, changing things up for 2025 here on the channel. Be sure to let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you guys have a H10 Optic? It's the H10 Optic out here at Red Rocks with Shredcraft RC, and I gotta say, definitely impressed. Really like that thing. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button if you like what you see, because there's going to be a lot more running footage, a lot more jumping footage. I think this thing's an awesome all-arounder. Definitely not a purpose-built crawler, but definitely purposely built for having fun. So I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.